Today's economy is destroying the lives of millions of hard-working Americans. Tonight, countless men and women out there won't be able to sleep as they get consumed with anxiety about their worsening financial problems. There are lots of parents all across the country experiencing severe financial insecurity, and they're trying to figure out a way to explain to their kids why they can't put food on the table anymore, or why their homes are being taken away. It's getting increasingly harder to find a decent job in the U.S. Given the current rate of inflation, the vast majority of job openings do not offer wages that allow workers to make ends meet. Meanwhile, Americans are being crushed by higher grocery bills, rising energy prices, record high prices for gasoline, and unaffordable housing. Working conditions continue to worsen by the day. Our once beautiful and bright metropolitan cities have been so devastated by this economy that it seems as if almost everyone has had the hope sucked right out of them. Bankruptcies and business closures have changed the U.S. economic landscape forever. Homelessness keeps rising at an alarming rate and is disproportionately affecting young Americans whose future has been removed from their hands. Today, we have gathered for you 50 facts that expose the harsh reality of everyday Americans. Before checking this list with you, don't forget to leave a thumbs up on this video and please subscribe to our channel. The economic statistics that we're about to report are incredibly shocking, but unfortunately they are very, very real. Without further ado, here are 50 facts that show just how much the average American has been destroyed by this economy. 1. For the first time in nearly 5 decades, Americans are officially facing a cost of living crisis, with wages dropping by almost 3.5% when adjusted for inflation, despite a 5.1% gain recorded over the past 12 months. The price of food staples such as milk rose by an average of 17% from the past year, while eggs soared 42%, and the average sales price of a home rocketed 21.65% from a year earlier. 2. In the last quarter of 2021, home prices were $70,000 more expensive compared to a year before. 3. The average cost of a new car in the United States just hit $45,000, the highest average figure ever recorded. That led auto sales to drop by 7.3% over the past month alone. 4. According to the Joint Center for Housing Studies of Harvard University, almost 22% of homeowners and 46.3% of renters in the U.S. are severely burdened by housing costs. 5. 1 in 4 middle-class homeowners and 1 in 2 renters in America spend on average over 30% of their income on housing every month. 6. From the 55 major U.S. cities tracked by the Housing Studies of Harvard University, middle-class families can no longer afford housing in 20 of them, which include Baltimore, New Haven, Austin, Portland, Sacramento, Miami, Denver, and Seattle. 7. If the rate of inflation was measured in the same way it was during the early 1990s, we would be currently witnessing a 15.9% inflation growth, according to shadow government statistics. 8. The price of crude oil has risen above $110 a barrel over the past couple of weeks. As a comparison, in 2010, crude oil was trading at just $20 per barrel. 9. Americans have only seen average gasoline prices rise above the $4 mark 2 times in all U.S. history. The first time was during the Great Recession of 2008. The second time was this week. with national gas prices reaching $4.09 on Monday. 10. After the 2008 crisis and up until 2010, the two-year median price for a gallon of gasoline was around $3.79. Today, experts are warning that gasoline prices will reach soon $5 and will stay elevated for the foreseeable future. 11. Since the average American household goes through about 750 gallons of gas a year, that means in 2022, U.S. families will spend somewhere around $3,075 for gas. That's nearly $250 more than they would normally spend before the beginning of the health crisis. 12. Over 70% of Americans said they intend to slow down their spending in 2022, according to data compiled by the Federal Reserve in New York. 13. The average American worker spends between 23 to 25% of their monthly budget on food and gasoline. For the working poor, that figure goes up to 29 to 31%. 14. 60% of California public school students need government assistance to afford lunch. 15. Right now, outstanding student loan debt stands at $1.58 trillion. Back in 2010, total student loan debt in the U.S. was at $760 billion. 16. The average asking price for a home in the United States just hit $400,000, the highest it has ever been. 17. According to a report released by Black Knight, there are currently 1.8 million Americans who are seriously delinquent on their mortgage payments. 18. At least 12 million renters are still behind on rent, the Pulse survey reported. 19. Last week alone, 8,345 evictions occurred all across the nation. According to data released by the Eviction Lab, 774,456 evictions have occurred in the past year. 20. A new survey released by Magnify Money found that over 50% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. That figure includes those earning less than $35,000 and those earning more than $100,000 a year. 21. 76% of low-income families are living paycheck to paycheck, while 31% of middle-class families are also living paycheck to paycheck. 22. 42 million people currently receive food stamps in the U.S. Over the past 2 years, an additional 11 million people filed for food assistance all across the country. 23. In 2021, 35 million Americans experience food insecurity, according to Oxford Economics. 24. The Census Bureau Household Pulse Survey found that 20 million households reported having too little to eat over the past 7 days. 25. Over the past 2 years, food banks provided over 500,000 free meals to hungry Americans. 26. Since 2020, approximately 2 million more children have started to live in poverty, marking a 16% increase, and a total of 11.9 million American children currently living in poverty-struck homes. 27. In February, there were 800,000 vacant jobs in the U.S. However, about 73.4% of them were offered low wages. 28. According to a survey released by Domash and Summers, 40% of U.S. workers are considering leaving the labor force in 2022. 29. Since the year 2000, U.S. workers have been displaced from 7.4 million middle-class jobs. 30. A study released by The Third Way found that a whopping 62% of jobs in America don't support middle-class life. 31. Nationally, the study also found that 30% of jobs are hardship jobs, meaning that they do not allow a single adult to make ends meet. 32. 32% of jobs out there are living wage jobs, which means workers earn enough to get by, but not to take vacations, save for retirement, or live in a moderately priced home. 33. Only 23% of jobs are considered middle-class jobs, which allow workers to dine out, take modest vacations, and put away some money for retirement. 34. According to Tradeway analysts, the main reason for the dearth of the U.S. middle class is the offshoring of millions of middle-income jobs to countries with lower labor costs, such as China. 35. The average household debt in the United States has reached a level of 132.2% of the average household income in 2021. 36. In China, the average household debt is only 61% of the average household income. 37. A staggering 25% of all American adults now have a credit score below 599. 38. Over the past 24 months, 922,077 Americans filed for bankruptcy. That has represented the fourth yearly increase in bankruptcy filings in a row. 39. The number of Americans without health insurance has risen to about 31.1 million over the past year, up nearly 3.6 million since 2020. 40. According to Forbes, 50% of Americans currently carry medical debt. 41. Last year, medical debt soared to the highest level on record, reaching $140 billion in the second quarter. 42. A survey published by the Commonwealth Fund has shown that 79% of Americans have problems paying medical bills or medical debt. 43. Unexpected medical bills account for almost 60% of personal bankruptcies in the U.S., according to the American Journal of Medicine. 44. According to Data for Progress, 56% of American workers are in a financial situation that regularly causes them stress. 45. More than 1 in 4 adults had trouble covering expenses over the past 12 months. 46. 47% of Americans do not have any emergency savings, and 22% of Americans who do have emergency savings carry more credit card debt than the amount they saved for unexpected expenses, reported Bankrate. 47. Right now, over 500,000 people are experiencing homelessness in the U.S., amongst them 89.7% are young Americans less than 24 years old. 48. The gap between America's rich and America's poor is the largest it has been in more than 50 years, the Census Bureau reported. Amongst the key factors for inequality cited in the report are flattened incomes, reduced middle-class job opportunities, and deteriorating housing affordability. 49. According to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the United States has the highest income inequality of all developed nations. And 50. The top 20% of highest-earning households have larger net worth than the bottom 80% of middle and low-earning households. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a position where you couldn't pay the mortgage or put food on the table for your family? It can be an absolutely devastating experience. While our population struggles with rampant inflation, shortages, and worsening working conditions, our leaders and the corporate media continue to dismiss our suffering and try to convince the public that this is what an economic recovery looks like. But the truth is, we're in the middle of a long-term economic downturn as the wealthiest country in the entire world becomes a nation plagued by poverty and inequality. The average American family is facing more financial hardship right now than at any other time since the Great Depression. And considering the global outlook, we all must brace for a lot more turbulence in the months ahead. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to see our next report.